Me and Brian are related. Brian is, full disclosure, my cousin, so we both know each other's skeletons. So let's not use them against each other today.
I'm just going to wait till about 30 minutes in, then I'm going to use them.
Okay,
just kidding.
Matt Woolley Podcast.
Our guest today is Brian Benton. Thank you for being here, Brian.
Thank you.
So who is Brian Benton? So Brian Benton is a husband and father. He's been a network specialist and administrator for the Area Agency on Aging for Arkansas. He's been a regional IT manager for Comcast. He is currently the founder and chief technology officer at Xccelero, and he's also an author. Did I miss anything?
That sums it up.
Okay. So just for clarity for our audience, I've known Brian for many years. Yes. Brian is the closest thing I've got to a brother, and me and Brian are related. Brian is, full disclosure, my cousin, so we both know each other's skeletons. So let's not use them against each other today.
I'm just going to wait till about 30 minutes in, then I'm going to use them.
Okay,
just kidding.
We'll use that as the sound bite. Okay, so for those that are listening, Brian, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Whitehall, Arkansas, southeast Arkansas, home of the Bulldogs, raised by my dad and mom, Bill and Kathy Benton, godly people. My dad was in the legal profession for a long time and advised my brother and I not to go into it. So we didn't. My brother wanted to became a dentist, and then I went into the technology.
Awesome.
My mother was staying home for a while, and she went back and got her bachelor's degree, was a valedictorian, UAPB, and then became a school teacher. And so that was pretty cool. So
what about your dad? So your dad's got an interesting history. So tell us it all about Big Bill for a minute. Big Bill,
he's a U of A graduate. My grandfather's a UA graduate. Actually, my grandfather, Jim Benton, played at the University of Arkansas.
Yeah, let's go into that for a second because there's a lot of Hog fans that listen to this. So let's talk. Let's talk about your grandpa real quick.
Yeah, Jim Benton. He played back in the day where they had the leather helmets, and they didn't have all the safety protocols that they have now. Now, they probably didn't ram you head on like they do now with the helmets, but they had the leather helmets, a lot of broken noses. They were tough as they are now. They were tough back then, but you just didn't have all the protections.
Right. He has several still unbroken records, right?
No, I think
at one point
they were all been broken. He had one record. Actually, he went in the NFL. So he graduated the University of Arkansas, played for the University of Arkansas back in the 30s, and then he went into the NFL, played for the Chicago Bears and the Cleveland Rams, and he was the first split in the NFL.
Okay.
And he had a record that lasted for 40 years. He caught 303 receiving yards in one game. It took 40 years to break.
Sweet Moses.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yes.
Okay, so back to Big Bill.
Yes, my dad. So he's a simple man that lives in a complex world. That's what he's always said. And if you go to my Facebook page, I have it actually on there on my profile. I stole that from him, so thank you, Dad, if you're listening here. So he was a lawyer, had his own practice for a long time. He was also a deputy prosecutor. Then he became a judge, and then he got elected as circuit judge, served 2 terms, and then he retired. I think it's 40-something years, 40-plus years in the legal profession. He's got a good dose of human nature. He was ready to retire.
So how did that affect you as a young man, having a dad that was, so heavily involved in, the legal world?
Well, he didn't really bring the work home. He didn't do that. but you looking back, you could tell things weighed on him, just like any man has. But he never took it home. But you knew that there was stress there, and especially in the legal field, you've got deadlines, or you get sued for malpractice, and you've got to deal with a lot of characters out there that, and it's feast or famine.
Yeah,
you don't realize it growing up because he always provided. There was always food. We had a good home. We were middle class, very blessed, but now I know it's feast or famine. So you're going to have some good months. You better stock up because you're going to have some months where you ain't making jack squat. He also had a secretary that was with him a long time named Lisa. She was a godsend to him. She was with him for a very long time, very loyal and great. Comes from a great family. So he was blessed to have her. He was also blessed to have my mama, who referred to as Mimi. So to have her to keep him well fed, to take care of the house. So they were a very, very good team.
Fantastic. All right, so let's, get into a little bit of your background. You've had, and I think it's important, this isn't a matter of controversy. It's just a matter of, testimony. So knowing that I know that you've had some struggles in your early life.
Yes.
And, I'd like to kind of talk about that. We don't have to get heavy in the weeds, but I think it's important that a lot of people today, don't hide some of those issues, because you're living proof that you can come out, and that God can move you in a direction, no matter your situation.
Right.
So, do you care to elaborate?
No, be glad to.
All right, go for it.
Be glad to. It's just a testimony of God's grace. And, we all go through things, especially when you're a teenager trying to figure things out, who you really are, what's your identity. Now, with me, I came to faith in Christ at age 8, Central Baptist Church. I still remember the call to turn. And I remember it going down forward. That's when we went down forward and talked to the pastor, which is at the time his name was Brother Gary. We called each other brother at the time at the Baptist church. So Brother Gary,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And so that was 8 years old, and then really young. I really was drawn to prayer, memorizing scripture, getting really involved in our church, and started really evangelizing. I was kind of a zealot. My personality type is
all or nothing.
All or nothing. Yeah, all or nothing. So you learn it. As you learn to kind of work with it, and hey, it's time to turn it off. So all or nothing. So it's kind of how it was, and so up until I'd say you get to the middle school years, about 7th, 8th, I was really on fire. I was a leader in the youth group at a very young age. And then, as you just, things happen, you've got raging hormones. You've got a lot of people out there that as you age, people around you, 7th, 8th grade, there's a lot more four-letter words. You go from, okay, so now I'm trying cigarettes to trying maybe some caffeine pills to smoking some weed, and it's all around you. And so for I know it, something that I was kind of leading people to Jesus, led my brother to Christ. I was evangelizing, I confronted some parents on racism at that young age. And then before you know it, by about 9th grade, I kind of had completely turned. It just wasn't praying. I was connecting with some people in the youth group that weren't as committed to Christ. It's not their fault. It's me. But it's just the stage I was going through. And before I know it, to kind of make a long story short with that, is I've been to 2 rehabs, and I dropped out of high school. So got involved with...
And this is all before the age of really
17.
Yeah.
17. Yeah. So within a short time, about from 14 and a half to about 17, of course, I'm all nothing, so I found that I really like smoke weed and try acid and try cocaine, try everything, all this stuff, and drink. And and party, do all those type of things, and I did it pretty quickly. And you know, the way that my kind of personality is, you know, I'm having a lot of fun, and before I know it, like I said, I went to 2 rehabs and dropped out of high school because I wasn't going. I had great teachers, just I wasn't a good student. Mm-hmm. And so the second rehab I went to, I was like, well, guy was working on my life, and I realized that I probably need to go back to high school. I need to get a GED and go to work. I need to kind of change the friend groups. Mm-hmm. You got to be careful. Those who listen to this podcast understand, probably a mature audience, that hey, who you surround yourself is an indicator of who you are. Well,
you know, that's a great point there, and that's one of the things we're trying to do here with this podcast is, you know, be reassurance to the younger generations. You know, not that we're that old, or at least I don't think we're old. I'm sure there's a few people that think we're old, but
right.
The reality is that you know, no matter the age group, you're going through tribulations, and we can all, you know, lift each other up. But it's nice to know, honestly, where people have come from,
right?
Because that in itself gives you hope. And you know, being the young guys need to hear it more so than the old guys. You know, that, you know, 120%. It's who, you know, who you're hanging out with is who you become. Which
right.
Jesus said it first. The Greeks said it as well, and it's so true, you know, and that's why you got to pair yourself with the right people. And you're either pushing people up or you're pulling people down. You know. So, anyways, keep going. So
that's right. No, and it's I'm completely accountable for everything. It's you know, I chose to hang out with it, and you know, it's just birds of a feather flock together. Right. So we all like to party and have fun, and that's kind of what happened. So I got the GED, went to work, and I'd always been drawn to technology. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of gave me a lane to stay in and focus on.
Hold on one second. So you've always been drawn to technology. Let's be clear on something. From an early age, at the dawn of computers,
yeah,
you did some pretty scandalous things with your gifts.
Oh yes, yes, I mean, and now, yes, now, so yeah, so
it's not. Let me be clear to the listeners that Brian didn't just go get a GED and then wander into computers. You were the guy at the. Nice try. You were the guy. You were the guy that got in trouble for hacking into things, and I believe, if I remember correctly, you had, you know, computer or two confiscated because of it, and you were always very smart with computers at an early age. Like, we're talking, like, a lot of these guys, well, some people in this podcast will understand, others will not, but for those that remember dial-up and those remember what a gateway is, and you know, and having a monitor that weighs 40 pounds, you know, Brian was early in on the game. You know, you weren't the first Mac, but you were there at the dawn of the internet. Essentially, that's where we were at. And I remember, you know, staying the night, and you know, you know, showing some fun things that you knew how to do early on. So. To get back into the right spot in this conversation, Brian had a lot of experience with computers long before he, you know, decided to progress in life. So that helps. You always had a knack for it. So, all right. So you've got...
It was a gift by God that early on I used for evil purposes. So let's just play clear with that. So, but yeah, I did a lot of... You know, you break a computer down, rebuild it, reinstall software, you know, break the operating system, reinstall it, you know, and you're tinkering. And yeah, we were back in the day where before, you know, Netscape was huge. It was all dial-up based. You're looking for bulletin board systems. There's America Online and all these different things that, it was a lot of command driven to access things. And so, you know, which we'll talk a little bit later, it's funny how God has a sense of humor, because now I'm in the business of cybersecurity, protecting business, and I've been doing that for a long time, ever since I've been IT, really 25 years, is protecting companies. People like me, the teenager. You know, so.
Well, you know, what a great, well, I mean, that's what you need. I mean, you need somebody that knows the other side of the fence, right? That's reality. Okay, so let's get back on track. So you you'd got your GED,
Right.
and you had an interest in computers.
Yeah.
Okay, so take you from there.
Yeah, actually, then I got GED, we started working. I went to some community college doing electronics, and then I kind of got bored with that. A semester shy of getting an associate's in electronics, and then decided just to go to work full-time in IT.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that at the company early on, nonprofit. They were very generous to give me an opportunity. I learned a lot. And there was also a relationship in there that I moved out of state for a while and learned a lesson and came back. And, the same company that I left actually hired me back on. And so I worked there for 3 years, and then I went to move to Little Rock, and I started working with Comcast.
So what, if you could put it in a nutshell, what would be the top great things or experiences you learned from working with, the area?
Aging of substance.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, they were a nonprofit, and Microsoft had these nonprofit licenses. Mm-hmm. So I learned that I could get nonprofit license to do software for a very low cost, and that helped me to learn. Plus, I had my own network set up at home, and computers.
And they're all over the state, right? So I mean,
they're different. Yeah, they're different ones. The one that
what region did you cover?
Southeast was the one for them, but there's different regions of those they're actually separate organizations. Do similar things, but they're separate. But yeah, I got a lot of experience there with them early in my career that actually helped me out a lot. So very appreciative.
So you transitioned to Comcast. What exactly did you do at Comcast?
Did IT for a which
you don't say.
Yes. Yeah, we stayed in that lane. We stayed in technology. They did IT, and so
okay.
Yeah. So I got a lot of the experience at their agency, a lot of technical experience, just having to figure things out. And then you go to Comcast. This was before they were as big as they are now. Obviously, they were starting to really acquire a lot of companies, and they were on their way. But
what was that transition like, going from a nonprofit organization? Let's face the facts. I'm not dissing any government ran organizations, but the public sector versus the private sector is
speed.
Yeah. So
speed.
So how was that transition?
Well, I like to move fast anyway, so it was not a big deal. I mean, it was a lot faster. Mm-hmm. And, they were very wise with how they ran their operations with their financials. I learned a lot. I was actually with them for 8 years. I had a lot of great bosses and mentors that helped me along the way. A lot of people I worked with, served. Mm-hmm. So it was 8 years. It was a great experience. It helped me a lot. I took the good with me when I started my own business. I left the bad. But you're going to have that in any place.
Oh, yeah. So, what was your takeaway from Comcast?
The importance of good leadership, the importance of moving fast in the market, having an advantage with speed, managing your cash flow, your capital expenses, having a close eye on that. Mm-hmm. I was really impressed at how they did it, even from when I was at from the regional level, how they managed a division, multi-billion dollars. And they probably knew down to the thousands what each system had, and that's pretty impressive. So that does help, because you hear a lot of companies that go out there and people squander away. That I don't think that ever happened at Comcast with their controls.
Awesome.
They were very innovative. They invested in new technology. They were investing in speed, and they were always investing. And the toughest part of the business is customer service, just because it's a tough position anyway to be in there, and so. But they were very innovative, invested, were bold acquisitions, and were very sound financially.
Awesome. So you leave Comcast. You care to elaborate what stimulated you to become an entrepreneur? Yes.
The thing is, I remember when I was probably about 19. I kind of had a dream of starting an IT business. It was just there. I believe it was God speaking to me at that time, just kind of prepping me. But you're looking back. But I did have a desire to do it even at an early age. But you came out of Comcast, it was thought, well, should I go? I was actually in Atlanta, Georgia. Should I go to Georgia Tech and get an EMBA? I actually signed up and got approved. And I was either to do that. I was like, I'll just bypass all this IT stuff and I'll go into the C-suite, the executive level. I'll just go, That was kind of the thought. That wasn't God's plan. And actually speaking to people like you and others, kind of figured out it's time to come back home to Arkansas. And God just gave me inspiration one night. I came home, it was October, I think it's 2012, and on a hayride with her family. I can't remember if you were there or not, but and I just looked up the stars, and I just had the thought, okay, well, let's go start a business. And then the next day, the name came to me, and everything just started coming. And so,
No, actually, I wasn't there.
You wasn't there?
It was a different one.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah,
No, it was that one. It was that one, I think. I didn't realize that's when you had the epiphany, though. Where people at home are listening like, what are you talking about? I know what you're talking about now. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All these years.
Yeah.
That's when it came to you?
Yeah, it was the summer 2012. I left Comcast after 8 years. Then and it's, it was probably time for me to leave. And thought about getting the MBA, and then it was that October. I was kind of figuring out what I was going to do if I stay in Atlanta or not. That's when I had the epiphany, and it just came to me, and then I knew it was time to move back, and all the stuff came to me, and so I knew I was going to come out as a managed IT service provider. That was something that was starting. It been around for a couple of years, but that's what I was going to go all in. That's what I've had the experience doing. So did that and incorporated in November of 2012, and then we launched commercially in January. It was January 21st, 2013, a day after my birthday. So, and my first client was my brother, so I was able to convince him to pay me some money. Lock him in. Strong army. My younger brother. So he was my first.
Yeah.
So that did help.
That's awesome. Okay. So your company, the one that you speak of starting, is called Xccelero.
Correct.
So I know that Xccelero has basically, you guys are pretty much very close to being Arkansas-wide based organization.
Right.
Your headquarters is in Benton, but what other areas are you servicing?
Oh, we could service the state, primarily focused Central Arkansas. We can do more Northwest.
I know you talked about plans of expanding into this area as well, but
yes,
I know you're in. I know you've dealt with, because there's been many people I've referred to you over the state, but Hot Springs, Little Rock,
right.
Benton, Pine Bluff, Lower than. You're kind of all over. And how many years now is it?
11 years.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So,
yeah.
What's your elevator pitch? What does Xccelero do in a nutshell?
For businesses, we make IT secure and seamless. And we come into a small business and we become your IT department. We partner with you.
So let's dig into the weeds a little bit. So I'm an existing business and I have a current provider. Maybe our system is a little outdated, or maybe we don't have anything at all. We don't know where to begin. What does Xccelero do?
Well, we're gonna meet with you first,
right?
And we're gonna learn about your business, your vision, and what you're looking for. And then, based on that, we'll do an assessment of your environment, and then we'll come back with a proposal for your business on us becoming your IT partner.
Right. So what does that involve, though? Most people, here's the reality. Look, I'm just fixing to check you. You're sitting here, you're telling me, yeah, we're going to meet up with you, and yeah, we're going to take care of you. That's a given. And you have a proven track record of that. But, what is it that you manage? What is it that you help set up? What is it that you help people with, handle on a daily basis?
Yeah, well, we'll start with the most important, the security. Back to the guy having a sense of humor. Here I am, you're securing. So we're gonna secure you from external threats, internal threats for technology. We're gonna protect you from internet threats. We're gonna protect you from email threats. We're gonna protect you from internal threats. Could be from somebody inside your organization, like a disgruntled employee. So both external and internal threats. That's from a security perspective.
And I assume that you have no problem working with both, PC and Mac type.
Correct. I actually use a Mac, and I support a lot of PCs. So I'll let the audience figure that one out.
Okay. So.
PCs are easy to manage, but Macs, they work great.
Fantastic. Okay, so you protect, you guys, and again, I am not very versed in this area. You guys, I'm assuming, can build servers from scratch and install hardware and run cabling and all that sort of thing to get somebody up and running. Is that
Oh, yeah. Well, we partners to make the cabling piece, infrastructure, that kind of stuff. We usually partner with those for the cabling. But, yeah, we can get you, if you need to set up a new building with your technology, we can do it. If you got existing location of technology, we can manage that.
Okay, perfect. What are some of the threats right now that you're seeing? Because I know it's an technology is moving at such a fast pace. It's not what it was, a few years ago. I know it just keeps. I know that it's a given, but honestly, if you take a step back and just think about just a few years ago, iPhone 3, right? Compared to what we're seeing now, it's moving at 1,000 times the speed in such a short amount of time, for lack of better summarizing it. But what I'm getting at is that it seems like to me, and this is just lay terms, there's this threat today, and then 5 days later, there's something new that everybody has to be educated on. So, what are some of these things that you're seeing? What are some of the issues that you're seeing? I know that speaking from a Design Stein's perspective, because just for clarity, this podcast brought to you by Xccelero. So Xccelero has done a fantastic job for Design Stein's for the life of its business, because I too am a client.
Thank you.
Yes, well, we appreciate you as well. And your team, fantastic team. I will say, I will plug your team real quick. You have done a fantastic job, both culturally as well as just having a knowledgeable, well-versed, and happy to help you team. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you.
Shout out to Brian Batterson, my boy. Hope he's listening. But
I'll send the link.
But anyways, all that to say, there was a time where we had a major, threat come across. It is pretty scary, and turns out it was just really a warning flare. But what people don't realize is the vulnerabilities that they truly have. Everybody just wants to get on. They want their email to work. And I've always told you that for years, as far as I don't know what you're talking about. I just want my email to work.
Oh, yeah.
But, there's so much behind the scenes. What threats are you seeing right now? What are some of the safeguards that companies should really have to avoid these threats?
Really, the way you secure things, the principles behind are the same.
Okay.
What's changed is the availability of the internet, the speed of the internet, what you can do, and everybody's connected.
Right.
Everybody is connected to the internet, and you have human beings that are operating computers. Mm-hmm. So human beings, just like myself, we're prone to mistakes. Mm-hmm. And so in the security space, for IT, when you're securing a network, really it only takes one hole for somebody to find to get in there. That's why you really have to have layers of security. Mm-hmm. So if you look at a Tootsie Roll, okay, it's hard on the outside, it's squishy in the middle with that Tootsie Roll, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't just have your security based on I'm gonna harden the outside, I'm gonna harden what gets in, and then you leave the inside real squishy. That's where you make mistakes, because it's not a matter of if somebody's going to get your network. It's a matter of when, and what you want to do is minimize what they can do inside their network once they get in. Mm-hmm. And you see a lot of stories online where most of it, them getting in recently is, they've sent an email and you click the link. Okay, that's just, and then they try and take you to a site where you log in. They want to make the sites look like a Microsoft 365 or a Google G Suite or whatever. Mm-hmm. What they're doing is they're trying to capture your credentials, and then they've got software that's automatically going to replay your credentials against that service. So if it's Microsoft 365 or Google G Suite. So that's just kind of a way they can get your email and then keep sending on emails. They may have a payment link, or they may try and find out who you email, like vendors you email. It could be a scam where they're trying to find out who you communicate with. Let's say you have vendors you communicate with regularly and you're sending invoices or sending invoice to you. So they may send a fake one in and get you to click on it, and then you pay it. Mm-hmm. That's one thing you would see. That's a real common thing. So the key to that is make sure that, one, you're careful what you click on. You have some security that kind of protects it. There's no foolproof system that's going to block everything. Mm-hmm. But if you're using any kind of authentication, authenticate something, you need multi-factor authentication. Mm-hmm. So if your username password gets compromised, what is something else that will help prevent somebody from getting in with those credentials? It's multi-factor. Mm-hmm. It could be a little token that you have on your little app on your phone. It could be a little hardware token, but you really have to have it. And anything that's cloud-based, any kind of remote access you do, mm-hmm. multi-factor, even inside your network. So protecting the identity is really mm-hmm. key, and then limiting who has the admin rights mm-hmm. is another key. Because mm-hmm. once you break into somewhere and you get the admin rights, well, guess what?
Yeah, game over.
You're going to have to restore from backup. Mm-hmm. So, I think there's obviously I'm in this business of sell cybersecurity solutions. But we can start trying to sell always the latest and greatest in this, just the basics of just like football's blocking, tackling, mm-hmm. okay, lining at the line of scrimmage properly. There's things to do to protect your business that you need to do that are administrative. Mm-hmm. Then you add the technology. Then you add the solutions on top of that. But you don't have too many where you're not administering properly. Mm-hmm. You want to have layers, but you only have too many where you've got some duplication. Mm-hmm. It's ineffective when you do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I got a question that just popped in my head. So, based on, what you're the multi-factor authentication, right? Do you receive a lot of pushback on that, or is it pretty everybody?
It's the adoption is not as much now because I think people understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just Google the Change Healthcare incident, and hackers got into their Citrix environment because they didn't have multi-factor authentication turned on. Mm-hmm. That cost them a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, yes, anything you do, you log into, have multi-factor authentication.
Have you heard any stories of the hostile takeovers of systems where they have to, obviously I'm assuming that hasn't happened on your watch because that's what you do, but have you had any clients or any stories with people having those issues?
Yeah, and it's kind of just for people to know when they hear the term remediation in the cybersecurity world, what that means is I'm restoring from backup or I'm reinstalling the operating system on a machine. That's what remediation really is. Yes, you have software out there that can prevent it, can block it, and if it starts spreading, can minimize it. Mm-hmm. But if a machine gets compromised, depending on what your policy is, you may have to get some forensics in there. Depends on your compliance or whatever is required of your business. Okay, mm-hmm. There's differences. But ultimately, you're going to isolate that machine. You can do that with software. Mm-hmm. Isolate it so the hackers can't do anything else. But to get that machine working again, you're either going to trash it or you're going to reinstall the software. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of remediation, when you do get to that, is you're reinstalling and software and restoring from backup.
Mm-hmm. I've had some situations with some business associates that have actually, you'd be surprised at the bills, paying a $60,000, $70,000 bill because their entire system was compromised over something so simple. Now, obviously, they came to guys like Xccelero after the fact to fix the situation. But the reality is, everybody, it's just like with anything, that'll never happen to me. Right. That's just something you see on the news kind of thing.
Right.
And if you actually read some of the stats on, the cyber warfare that's taking place, it's pretty astounding, especially when you think about how much we're all, like you said, plugged in and online and connected.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a great. You guys offer a great service and the proper protection. We've seen that firsthand. It's a little bit of an adaptation, though, quite honestly. It really is.
Right.
And quite frankly, too, it's really kind of sad that we live in not to get all doom and gloom, but we live in a time where that is a concern. But it is. It's there, so you might as well be prepared for it.
Correct.
So let's talk about real quick. So we know what Xccelero does, and we've seen, the short history of Brian Benton becoming the founding Xccelero and growing it exponentially. But what are some of the struggles along the way? Let's talk to the heart of the entrepreneur here.
Yeah, I got them.
Okay. So for those guys out there that are starting a new business, what do you tell them?
Try to get in debt to do it if you can. Start small, improve your model. I did take that advice, but coming from the giant company like Comcast, I had this spreadsheet I put together, and I had my outlays for 3 years, and I was pretty ambitious. But there's a lot to learn, and sales and marketing and relationship building, and I knew I could outwork people, but and would serve. I would just outwork competition, and I still believe in that philosophy. But if the competition doesn't know you, it really doesn't matter. You've got to get clients, and then you got to keep serving them, and then you get the word of mouth, and then you got to do marketing on top of that, outside of that. But yeah, I think it's great to have a big vision, but start small and grow incrementally, and then move fast as you can, but know that, and especially B2B, that the growth may be slower than what you had anticipated. That's kind of what I experienced, is having this spreadsheet and everything, and you realize that no, we're not this year. No, we didn't do it. Okay, we're still here, and so
the small victories.
Small victories. Just learning to manage your P&L, managing your cash flow, knowing what technology to invest in. For me, I was me. I was doing it all for 3 years. I was working a lot of hours. I lived very minimal. I went from a very good salary at Comcast, and I went to minimal. I paid myself peanuts. I mean, I had zero debt at the time. I would have to give a shot to Dave Ramsey, because I followed his plan, Total Money Makeover, and I actually got out of debt, which kind of helped me, put me in a position to go out and start the business with cash. And just, I had to be, I'm not a very patient person, but you had to be patient, waiting for the growth, but be aggressive. When you have clients, to serve them, to outwork the competition, to network. But I learned to do all those different areas, and it just takes time to get the experience. You can read all the books you want to. You can talk to all the mentors. It's great. You got to go experience it. You got to experience it. And then you learn, and you continue to talk to mentors. You continue to read books. You got to experience it some more. And as you do that, you learn. It's like working out. You got to work out those muscles.
So I have to tell on you and on me on this one. This is one of my favorite jabs of all time.
I don't know where we're going with this.
Well, so at the time, so you started in, what was it? What was 13, right?
13.
13, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so Designstein started, well, as far as the federal government is concerned, legally on paper. The ideas and preliminary work, it was actually 2009, but officially 2010.
Got it.
And so at that point, we were 3 years into it. And I remember coming from banking, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to conquer the world, kind of thing. And anyhow, I had those same aspirations. And it's always wonderful to see other entrepreneurs with those aspirations. But you also see, quite honestly, them being a little naive with their ambition. And I remember specifically talking to you, and you started, after being in business for 3 years, and then doing everything we could, scratching, clawing to get every ounce of business that we could. And I remember you telling me how you were going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I said, well, I'm just here to tell you it doesn't always work out like you think it's going to. Just because you put it on paper doesn't mean you don't have flags. And he's like, I got a book I want you to read. And I was like, okay. And so it wasn't like a day or two later I received the 4-hour work week in the mail. And I was like, 4-hour work week? I'm going to be honest with you, I was a little insulted. And so I was like, well, you're definitely not doing a 4-hour work week at Design Science. And so anyways, a lot of people love that book. And, hey, shout out to Tim Ferriss and all the homies that made it happen with a 4-hour work week. But I remember getting about a third through it, and I said, Brian, this is garbage. And I was like, and it's not because it couldn't make a successful model, but all of his examples were like fairy tale stories.
Yeah.
Of, and the reality is that, you got to have grit. And there's a lot of late nights, and there's a lot of stuff that you don't want to do, and there's a lot of figuring out stuff. Can you do that? Oh yeah, we can do that. Does that provide a check? Yeah, absolutely, we can do that. And then it's trying to create a perfect fairy tale ending for the client, with little to no knowledge, but having the grit to get after it and figure it out. And I remember following up with you about a year after you being in business, and you were telling me, yeah, things are going good, we're moving, I'm doing this, getting this, blah, blah, blah. I said, but we're not exactly where we want to be. And I was like, how's that 4-hour work week helping you? Maybe you can consult that book. I remember that conversation. So anyways, yeah, a lot of people don't understand it. I know you know what I'm talking about. That people just don't understand the time and dedication it takes. And I will say this, praise God for being fortunate enough. I mean, you sit here and we're working on year 15, you're working on year 12, and a lot of businesses don't last that long.
Right.
And that's not a brag on us. It's a brag on God and having the fortune of working with great clients and trying to do what you can for them, and them having enough faith and appreciation for it's of the two-way street that is the partnership.
Absolutely.
And so I talk to guys all the time, ask me for advice. And number one, I feel like I'm not worthy of giving advice because, I'm still learning. And I think that's the fight of the entrepreneur as well, is you're always learning. You're always trying to do better, And I know that you, more so than me in the early, not ages, but I can't think right now.
It's age, man.
Yeah, it is. It is sleep deprivation. Age and sleep deprivation don't help. Yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? Earlier on in Xccelero, I remember that you were more culturally centric than Design Science was. Now, Design Science has a wonderful culture now and a fantastic group of people. And I'm not saying that in the sense of just trying to be a braggart. I mean, I truly mean it. We're very blessed, and I know you're the same.
Yes.
But I remember early on, you were all about, having, the right fits.
Right.
What's your take on culture and culture at Xccelero?
Well, if you want to get clients and retain them, you got to take care of your people that serve your clients. It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a couple of years ago, I kind of pared down our values, which your values are what form your culture, it's your lifestyle. It's how you're living it out.
Mm-hmm.
So I just came up, I'm a kind of a wordsmith. These things come to me a lot of time in the shower, which of all places.
I do the same. That's really weird.
And it's just the thoughts of, it was there. So it just comes to you. I said, yeah. So
that or weed eating for me.
Weed eating, that's,
yes.
I just like to sweat when I do the hard work.
Yeah.
I don't get many ideas. I accept treating things that I just, Let me go ahead and chop down this junk.
So just real quick, how that works with me is the same thing with the shower. I've constantly got like 9 cogs in my head moving at light speed, and I would probably be diagnosed with, slight, OCD as well as, what is it? Is it attention deficit disorder? What is that?
ADHD.
I can't remember what it is.
I guess that's it.
And I don't know. I've never gone and have it looked at, but I'm always just all over the board. And I can concentrate on an idea, don't get me wrong, but whenever I'm really stimulated, there's a lot going on. But that's the one thing I love, and I do tell a lot of the guys that, ask me questions. I was like, man, just do something with your hands. Pull yourself out of, just sitting in an office.
Right.
And I've had some of my great mentors tell me that. I had a fantastic mentor tell me one time, I'm sorry I'm getting off subject, but tell me, I said, man, I'm just trying to think this through. I'm trying to, figure out what's the solve for this. He goes, you can't always do everything in the office.
All right.
And I was like, well, why not? And he goes, because there's just too many distractions. He said, if you really have to do some deep thinking, you need isolation. You need to be able to really, and that's what that kind of stuff does. Manual labor, whether it's working in the garden or doing weed eating or, just working on tinkering with something, if it's something brainless, that I really have to put a lot of thought into, but my hands are busy. Same thing with smoking a cigar. I have a lot of great, thoughts come to me while I'm smoking a cigar, staring off into space. I'm moving, but my brain is allowed to ride free. And I don't know why that works. I don't know the science behind it, but that's how it comes to me. And they come to me in the shower. It's the same concept.
I've heard the saying, a friend of mine named Lane told me this story, or the saying that, sir, sitting on a stump, just going out, you're talking about isolation, just go sit on a stump and think. Mm-hmm. If you think about our culture, our society as a whole, is that we're very fast paced. We're moving, we're moving, and we don't sit down and think, why are we doing this?
We're always stimulated. We always have to have something going on.
What's the intention behind this?
Yeah.
And should I be doing this? Just questions like that. I know I get into it too, and sometimes I have to sit back and say, okay, let's look at what we're trying to do. And obviously this line with God's will is the first question I've got to ask and pray and ask and seek, because, our time on this earth is short.
But a vapor.
The days are evil.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyways, so there's a nice little wisdom nugget, give yourself time to think.
Yeah.
Which I tell people that all the time, like, and I know guys too that will try to do, and maybe it works for them, but when I say like remove yourself from distraction, I literally mean everything. Anything that could cause you a certain stimulation. Like I know a lot of guys that will work and listen to music, and sometimes I do that based on whatever it is, but if it's something I'm in deep concentration, I don't want anything feeding me, whether it's music or listening to a podcast or whatever, just it's something where somebody's talking into your ear or that brings certain stimulation. It's not good, in my opinion. At least it doesn't work for me, I'll put it that way. So anyways, circling back to the culture piece of it.
Yeah, so a couple years ago, I kind of pared down our values to 4, and I came up with LEAD. It's an acronym for love one another, execute fast, always communicate, coordinate, follow up, and do excellent work. So LEAD. So we want to lead in loving one another, lead in executing fast, lead in always communicating, coordinating, follow up, and lead in doing excellent work. Mm-hmm. That's the culture of Xccelero. And that's where I coach. I coach a lot on those things, especially the communicate, coordinate, and follow up. Mm-hmm. I preach that sermon a lot. Mm-hmm. It's very important to me to treat people the way they want to be treated. And we're all going to make mistakes. And you've got to use those as teaching opportunities so that you and your team learn.
Mm-hmm. So let's get off into that just for a second. I think we've got time. You're also an author.
Correct.
All right. So how many books have you written at this point?
5.
Sweet Moses.
I'm working on my 6th.
Wowzer.
Wowzer, considering that I'm a high school dropout.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your books? Can you remember them all?
I can. The first book is the Hurry Up No Huddle Life Offense. And
give a quick explanation.
The explanation is I had an idea to write a book when I was starting my business to promote myself to become a authority figure with the book. And I had a lot of great ideas. I had all my notes from years I kept up in a Microsoft OneNote, if those, you know what that is, like a Evernote. So I had all these notes. I put it all together. It was going great. And actually, I started writing in 2013, right after I started my business, when I had the idea. But a few months in, I remember it was April, after I had all these great ideas, I went and listened to a sermon by a pastor, and he basically said, if you're moving in life too fast, you can't look around and see what actually is really happening. Mm-hmm. About the same time I had writer's block. So everything that I had going in the book, it stopped. And then I just started to pursue God. I kind of was living the lifestyle of a prodigal son for a long time. And God was really working on me. I was drawing near to him. He actually gave me a dream before, but that same year that kind of got my attention. He woke me up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I still remember it. He told me that pride exalts self, righteousness exalts me. Draw near to me, and I'll draw near to you. It's from James 4:6-8. So God speaks to his word. So I'd already started moving towards him, but there was a series of events that happened. One being the book, having the writer's block, and then I watched. There's a mini series in the Bible. I can't remember what it was called, but I watched that, and then all of a sudden, just one day, I was 33. It was June 30th, I think, 2013. It was about a year after I left Comcast. I was about 6 months into the business, and I was listening to Hillsong. I surrendered. I heard of the song from an MMA fighter named Mark Hunt. He's a heavyweight, and he'll knock your head off. But he would come out to I Surrender by Hillsong. I didn't really know who Hillsong was at the time. I know there's some controversy, but God still works through their music. And I listened to that song, and the part where it says, Jesus breathes within like a rushing wind. Brother, he did. And I completely surrendered. And so the prodigal son returned. And from that point, that book that I had, it just, it's like a download of the gospel in my brain. And so all this stuff came to me, and the book came together. I mean, I wrote it pretty fast, finished it. And so that's how the first book came. It became really, I was going to exalt Jesus, share my testimony, honor my family. That's how the book shaped up. I was planning to use the book for promoting my business, and then I was end up promoting Jesus.
All right. That's awesome.
Which I still promote today.
So what about the second book?
The second book is, so you'll notice offenses a lot because I like to attack, but also learning to, be humble and slow down. Business offense. So I had an idea to write a business book, and then from which you've helped me with all the designs. So great job, Design Steins. Just to plug that real quick, all of my books. I trust you with it. So business offense was just it's business book, and it's got godly principles in there that align that we align the business with God and His will, and there's gospels in that book. Then I built a playbook that kind of goes alongside the business offense. So it's a business offense playbook.
So what do people use this book for, though? I mean, we get the godly principles,
right? So
what's the use alongside the godly principles?
I mean, if you're just starting your business, it just gives you some practical things to do, run your business, about process, the importance of process, of leadership. That's what the business offense really is.
What about the third book?
The playbook is basically just kind of a fun thing that I want to say, okay, how do I take the ideas from the book, and then you have a playbook that I can follow along, and the principles in there, and just follow along with the book and kind of write down a little playbook. And that was really basically for fun for me to do. All right. And then I just published it. That's how that came about. I used it.
Okay, so what's the fourth book?
The fourth book is it's the ITOS, Information Technology Offense System. So I wanted to kind of put together a book of IT management philosophies, cybersecurity philosophies in a book that how what we use in Xccelero, all the things that we use in the business. Of course, I put the book out several years ago, so we've adapted some things, but the principles are there: communicating, coordinating, following up, how we manage, how we secure. A lot of the things that I put in the book, we're still using.
Okay, and book number 5?
5 is the gospel offense.
Yes.
And so that book is basically, I wrote it kind of to honor first responders, people in the military, and I kind of use some military terminology. I've never served in the military. I have the utmost respect for everybody that does, and kind of put in a context of, we're on this earth to advance God's kingdom with love. Mm-hmm. And I just use some military verbiage and incorporate that with the book and with scripture to, explain that, the fundamental of what we do as Christians is to love our neighbors ourselves. I mean, it's to advance God's kingdom with love. And out of that love, we go out and make disciples. Mm. We glorify God in everything we do. And I kind of unpack, the thesis is advancing the kingdom of God with love. The thesis really comes from Galatians, where the whole law is summed up in one word, love, and in the sentence, love your neighbors yourself. Mm-hmm. So I kind of unpack that in the book.
Awesome. Any insight into book number 6? Or do we?
Yes. Yeah. It's in work. So I took a break from writing books. I didn't plan to write another one, but God has different plans. And it's really a challenge for me to write something. I like that. It's hard for me. I get the thoughts, but it's hard to kind of put it on paper. But I've got good editors in the past to help. But my friend of mine named Brad Duncan, he wrote a book called Faith and Fitness. Mm-hmm. And he incorporated it's kind of goals, and then there's devotion. He did it with a group of guys. And I was going through his book this spring back in April, and was halfway through it. I got the inspiration for my new book called Refresh. And the reason I came up with the name Refresh is if you look back in your life, we go through seasons. Mm-hmm. We go through highs and lows. Our life is like a heartbeat, ups and downs, peaks and valleys. And, you kind of feel like coming to the winter market sometimes. I'm like, you're not really refreshed. Mm-hmm. You're kind of stale, or you got a lot of opposition and challenges that go your way, whether it be your personal business or whatever. And so through that April, I started feeling like I was starting to be refreshed again. Mm. And so it just came to me. And so Refresh it's a 49-day devotion. Mm-hmm. You do 7 days a week. So it's 7 weeks. If you miss a day, you miss a week, whatever. But that's why I put it in there, because it was 21 days to make it form a habit. Something like that. So I wanted to go above that.
It's a lot longer. Okay. That's to get it going.
Get it going,
get it ingrained.
And the number 7 is the number of completion. So 7 weeks, 7. So Refresh. There's each week we focus. The first week is we focus on rest, and then you've got exercise, and so.
Well, let's not reveal it all.
Let's not reveal it all. So yeah, that's coming out. So it's a devotion. So it's a devotional experience, and the devotion itself takes 7 minutes or less to do.
Oh, awesome!
But we want the experience to last. Whatever God wants to do with the experience.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Okay. So final question for today, Mr. Benton. What gives Brian Benton joy?
I mean, I really have to say my wife, my children, it's all been their gifts from the Lord. Mm-hmm. Joy is a fruit of the Spirit. And so the Lord and what He's given me. And, you do well in business and you've got friends, but at the end of the day, you come home to your family. You come home to your wife and your children. And so, it's not always easy, but there's so many good times, so many good memories, and so much joy when you have, like my wife, Christy, she's beautiful. My dad told me to find a woman that looks good, acts good, and cooks good. And I like it. It was 3 things. So that's what I found with Christy. And so we've she was married before, had a child. So we've got a stepson who's 14, Mark West, and then me and her have Maverick White Benton, who is 7, and then my little girl is 6, Malone Whitley Benton. So there's a lot of joy.
Fantastic. Well, Brian, I hope you'll come back again, and thank you for being here.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Bye.